Step outside.
Hello, greetings everybody. Good evening. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge our traditional caretakers and ancestors of these lands. We are surrounded by 19 pueblos. There used to be a lot more, but there's 19 pueblos still surviving today. So we're very grateful for that. And we want to acknowledge all of your ancestors in the lands where you are currently residing. And we all have ancestors. So we'd also like to acknowledge Mother Earth, who's housing all of us while we're here for a very short time in this short run we call life. And we also would like to honor Father Sky, who gives us all that we need, nourishment from the universe. And just to let you all know that Indigenous Ways is a nonprofit that is dedicated to bridging cultural exchange with people globally. And that means all people. We have no walls of separation. We have no discrimination. And we don't say, we're right and you're wrong. Because you know what? We all have a different experience and a different path. But you know what? We are all one. And that's what our ancestors have also told us from the very get-go. So just to let you know that our virtual events are recorded and archived on our website, so you can let your friends know if they want to see it at a later point, they can. And then we have our concert series on Friday nights where we have comedy, we have poetry, we have music, we have all kinds of fun stuff. And then on Wednesday nights, we bring in very, very, very special people like tonight. We bring in people we honor and respect for their walk on this red road. And when I say this red road, I mean they're doing something to bridge differences, to bridge cultures, to bridge language, to bridge traditions, to bridge thoughts, perspectives, because the more we learn from each other, the more we become a better, compassionate people as one. So all of these events are ASL interpreted. And tonight, I would like to give a very warm welcome to Terry Vinson, also known as TV. That's her sign name. Terry Vinson has been on this path to bridge hearing and deaf culture for over 30 years. She decided that since she was deaf, she wanted to be able to communicate with hearing people. So she learned to speak for herself, meaning voice for herself. But she also learned American Sign Language at a very, very young age at the New Mexico School for the Deaf. And she decided to make it her mission in life to teach hearing people. So I'm gonna let her talk about that. She's a very patient woman. She's a very compassionate woman who loves animals and always has animals that I've known of. And Terry Vinson has taught many, many, many students. I'm one of them. And she has taught a lot of students that are now certified interpreters. And you know what? She's had a lot of patience with us because adult learners learn a lot slower than little tiny babies, sign language, believe it or not. So without much ado, I'm gonna give it up for Terry Vinson. Woohoo!
Yes, thank you. Hello, yay. Hello, hi all. Yes, deaf hearing people, welcome. I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to this. Excuse me, right now it's a little bit windy out, and so I'm looking out a little bit at the wind. So let me introduce myself. My name is Terry Vinson, and my sign name is TV. I grew up here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there's no sign name for New Mexico, only sign NM. So we just sign NM. So because people think, oh, there's a sign, you know, New Mexico or New Mexico, like the country. No, we just have the sign for NM, for New Mexico, just to let you know and sharing that. But anyway, I want to tell you that I want to share my experience with you growing up. So my mother my mother, and her name is Elra, and that's my mother. I was born and I grew up. And when I was 2, my mom said, "Oh, there's something wrong." You know, she was talking with me and I was running around, and they said there's definitely something wrong with her, and they couldn't figure out what it was. Sorry, it's very windy out here. I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the papers are flying. But anyway, so my mom was looking at me and she decided to go to Roswell, New Mexico, well, which is the southern part of New Mexico. So we went there, and my grandparents owned a ranch there, and it's in a town that's called Alina, New Mexico, and it's around 25 miles south. So Alina is up there, and Roswell is below. So we went there, and my mother, told me to go, and on her own, they closed the door that I went into the doctor. The doctor had on, the whole, remember that disc that they used to wear, and then they would look through it and then they put it back on their forehead. That's what the doctor had. And so I'm looking at the doctor, and the doctor's doing different things. And they bring in some honey, some candy, some old-fashioned candy, with the different colors, and with orange, and with the wrapper, and then you take it off. And then the doctor was standing behind me, and he was banging on things and clapping his hands, and I was just busy with the candy. And the doctor said, "Yep, yeah, he's definitely no." So he opened up the door and told my mother to come in. So my mother came in, and he closed the door, and he said, "Your daughter is deaf." And my mother was absolutely shocked, and she couldn't believe it. And she was very upset. And, she said, "Well, what am I going to do with my daughter? How are we going to educate her? What are we going to do?" And they said, "Well, there's a deaf school, and it's in Santa Fe, New Mexico." And my mom said, really, there's a deaf school there?" And the doctor assured her that there was. They'll teach her how to read and write and how to interact with other children. And my mom was just, so my parents brought me over to the deaf school. And so I entered school, and we were looking around, and we saw so many deaf girls that were playing. And my mother told me to go ahead and play with the girls and to socialize with them. So my parents went in to discuss about their daughter and how I was going to stay. So I was going to stay in the dorms, and while I was playing, my parents had a really hard time leaving me there at the deaf school. And they said, "No, we'll have a house mother, and we'll take care of Terry for you. Don't worry about that." And so they pulled me over, and I said, "What? I'm playing." And they said, "No, wait a second." And so I said, "Leave me alone. I'm at home. I want to play with my girls." And we played all day into the evening. And then it was time to eat dinner at the cafeteria, and we ate. And then when we were done, we went back to the girls' dorm. And then it was time to go to bed. And I was looking around like, where's my bed? Where am I going to sleep? And I started crying. I wanted my mom. I started crying. And my mom's name, it was Miss Rivera. She was a big, stout woman with a bun on her head. And she told me, "It's okay, don't worry, come and sit with me." And all the girls were sleeping in the beds. They were all lined up along the wall. And I had my bed in the corner, and I was crying for my mom. And Miss Rivera brought out some M&M chocolates for me. And I said, "Okay." And so she helped me, and she rocked me, and she took care of me while I was eating. And then all of a sudden I was out, and she put me in my bed. When it was time to wake up in the morning, it was like, oh, where do I go? Where's the restroom? And I mean, where's the woman who gave me candy? And so I looked underneath my bed. Oh, and there was the M&Ms, the chocolate candies there. So anyway, so the next day, my teacher, and the name is Miss Flower. And she was teaching me to read and to write and learning. And so we were teaching for the year, and then all of a sudden it became summer vacation. So my parents came and picked me up. And then they said, Miss Flower, we want to tell you something. And Miss Flower said, what? And they said, Miss Flower said, your daughter cannot talk. You know that? What do you mean my daughter can't talk? My mother said. And she said, yeah, she's learning sign and she's good at reading and writing. And my mother said, okay. Well, they're labeling my daughter that can't speak. Okay, well, that's fine. So my mother brought me home. And one day, we're playing with my friends at my home with my neighbors because I lived on a farm. And anyway, so I ran back home and I told my mom, look, my friend's there. And she told me to come over. And she said, what? And I couldn't understand. And she said, water. And I'm like, so I tried to speak it. And my mother said, okay, well, that's good. She poured in a glass of water and gave it to me. So I took the water and I sipped it, and then I gave it back to her, water. And she said, no. And she said, say it again, say water. Sorry, all the papers. So she said, water. And so I said it again, water. And my mother all of a sudden was so happy. And so I went running back to my friends and we played. And my mother thought, you know what? We're going to look for a magazine. And so my mother looked and she cut out all these different faces and hair colors and eyebrows and noses and bodies and arms and legs and everything. She cut off everything. And so she made a scrapbook and she put it, and she glued it in into this paper, and she was busy working on this. So when I got up the next morning after playing, my mom said, no, you're not going out to play. You're coming to sit here with me. And I'm like, come on, Mom, I want to go out and play. So I sat down and she said, this is face. I want you to say the word face. And so I said, face. And she said, yes, that's good. And so my mother taught me how to say words, eyebrow and eyes and cheek and lips and arms and elbows. And I was learning every morning. I was practicing my speak and I would learn my speech. And then I was speaking. It's like a lip reading teacher, where they use cued speech to put their hands on you and then, to feel the nasal, for certain consonants and that type of thing. So anyway, so my mom said, okay, we're ready to teach, so that way you know the words so we can put together a sentence. And so I had to lip read her, and it was very difficult to understand. So I said, my mother said, how are you? How are you? And I said, yes. So then I said, how are you? And using my voice. And my mother taught me to say, I'm fine. So I said, I'm fine. We practiced and practiced and practiced. One day I was playing with my friends at home, and my parents went out, and my friends went out. And so she said, you're a cowgirl. And I told my mom, no, I'm not a cowgirl. I'm a cow horse. And my mother thought that was the funniest thing. She laughed and she said, you're not a cow horse. You're a cowgirl. You are a cowgirl. And I said, yeah, I'm a cowgirl. And I was very excited. And my mom said that it was fall and it was time for me to go back to school. So I went back to the New Mexico School for the Deaf, And I saw my teacher, Miss Flower. And so she was telling me to go along, and I said, no, I want to talk to you. And so I was actually speaking with her. She said, no, you're supposed to go. And I said, okay, fine. So anyway, I went off, and later I grabbed my teacher and I said, teacher. And she said, oh, hi. And she was signing to me. And I said, wait a second. And I used my voice. Hello, Miss Flower. And she looked at me absolutely in shock. And I said, how are you? And she looked at me again. And she thought, well, this little girl. And then she said, I'm fine. And my mother said, see, I told you, my daughter was going to talk. You never, ever tell my daughter that she won't be able to speak. And Miss Flower apologized, and she said, I'm sorry, I won't label your daughter. And my mother said, please don't ever do that to another deaf child again, ever, because that is wrong. And Miss Flower apologized, and she said, I'm sorry. My mom left it after that. And afterwards, it was just a shock. Okay, so anyway, I grew up and I learned how to speak with my family at home, and I used my voice. And my mother wanted me to go to speech therapy at the deaf school because they had speech therapy there at the school. So I went and I learned, and then they signed up and they made me go to speech therapy. And I put up with it, and I went anyway. And there was this one woman, and wow, she was big and stout, and I was quite scared of her. But I went in, and she put on lipstick. And she would put on this lipstick, and she would smack her lips together, and I'm looking at her, and she said, okay, I want you to say A-E-I-O-U. And she had it listed. So I would use my voice. I had to learn the pronouns like E. And she's like, no. And I was scared. I was quite frightened. And then she would say B, C, E with a big mouth. And you see E with the wave and everything going through the vibrations with my nose. And I put up. And so I learned speech therapy. I learned how to speak with her. So I felt like it was a little bit of abusive, because she told me that I was wrong. I was deaf. I didn't understand. And hearing people, can hear people, even speaking, and when it is closed, when it's covered, but we can't hear anything. And she was speaking, and it was very tough. So growing up, I learned speech therapy. So the next day, then soon I was growing up with my family, and we went on a holiday. It was Easter. And then Thanksgiving, and, just holidays. I would go back home and I would use my voice, and because my parents didn't sign, I just suffered through it, and I would speak with them. I was hoping that my parents would learn sign language for me. And they're like, no, it's okay. And, and I'm signing back and forth with my friends, and I'm enjoying communicating with all the other children. Later on, the communication, she would say, what did they say? What did they say? And I was constantly asking people. My family said, no, don't do that. I said, but at home, they forgot, and it was hard for me to communicate. It was very frustrating. So I want to let you know that it was what I cherished the most was ASL and the deaf culture and the deaf history and the deaf community, because to let you know that way deep down, I am deaf, 100% deaf. And it was a big challenge for me. That the deaf, they're not disabled. Deaf people are not disabled. They are able to use a different language. And it's just a beautiful culture. The deaf were all the same. There's Black, there's Indian, there's Mexican, there's Asian, there's white, and we are all unified. We're all deaf, and it feels good because we're all the same. And so we went home, and my family was discriminating against Mexicans and blacks and Asians. And I'm like, what? All this discrimination? Why? No, it doesn't matter with colored people. They're all wrong. And the reason why I said that is because we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all deaf. We're all the different colors. We're all the same. And my parents from then on were quiet. They were quiet. And so I knew with the language, with deaf, with all of us deaf people, we were all the same. And deaf can do anything. It's the same as hearing. Same thing as hearing people do. Like, we have successes. We have different variables. I mean, they're in a variety of professions. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're engineers. We have deaf college professors that teach. We have they're involved in competitive sports. We have actresses. And now we finally have deaf interpreters and deaf reporters. And where are they? They're in Washington, D.C. So kudos to them. They're very successful. So now here, now in New Mexico, just recently, to let you know, we have the coronavirus, and that's the sign, coronavirus. I'm not sure if you know the sign for coronavirus. It's awful. And, our governor, whose name is Michelle Grisham, is really good. She's made sure that when they were having coronavirus discussions and press conferences, they made sure that there was a deaf interpreter. And so my friend was so excited. We have finally a deaf interpreter with the governor. And, and how does that work with the deaf people? Because they can't hear. Well, they have another hearing interpreter who sits in front of them in a chair with all the reporters. And so with that person, when the governor is speaking, they're looking at the governor and they speak and they sign, and then the deaf interpreter copies what the hearing interpreter is saying. They translate it. And so my friends are like, wow, this is so cool. We finally have a deaf interpreter. And now there's more and more new deaf interpreters all over. And it's just so exciting. Finally. So, because we have a hearing interpreter and a deaf interpreter, so they team and they work together, and they work together in unison. So sometimes the hearing interpreter doesn't really understand, so they feed what the deaf person is saying, and then they feed it so to the other people when they're speaking. So they sign the deaf, and then it goes back and forth, and it works really wonderful. And it's about time, because back then we had interpreters and teachers at my time. And so it was just the interpreters were our teachers. So for the deaf, one second. Okay. So, it's what's really interesting is to compare deaf culture and hearing culture. So we'll compare the two. With the deaf culture, they tend to be very blunt. And hearing culture, they tend to sugarcoat everything, and they're not really telling the truth. And what I mean by that is with deaf people, deaf will say, wow, you're fat. Why? What happened? And they said, oh, I just eat a lot. And they say, oh, okay. But with the hearing people say, oh, you're pretty, but they don't say you're fat. They'll sugarcoat it, and they are not telling the truth. And deaf culture, they're very blunt. And you would not think that that's very nice, but that's deaf culture. We tend to do that. So another example is with hearing. They're like, oh, look at that person. And no, you can't do that in hearing culture. You know, if you're speaking about somebody, you hide it and you use your eyes to point to the person. Instead of in deaf culture, you just actively point to the person. And in deaf people, you say, hey, you see that woman over there? And no, there's fine. It's nothing rude, and that's the deaf way. That's how we do things in the deaf culture. So we went far and far and far, and they're like, oh, you'd see the colors and the oranges and the yellows, and hearing people are more polite. They're like, shh, keep it down. Just don't do that. And with the hearing people, we tend to have, you know, when we're going to the grocery market, you raise up your chin, you know, when you're pointing to somebody. And, you know, so you point your chin, and that's like, hi, how are you? That type of thing. And, you know, and so that's how you acknowledge people is by the nod of your chin. Instead, deaf people are like, hi, how are you? Oh, it's so great to see you, and so forth. And it's really interesting.
So the reason why I share this is like, what's my goal, really? Experiencing all this, I wanted to be a bridge between the hearing communities and the deaf community. I wanted us to meet in the middle and come together. I wanted to connect the deaf and hearing communities. And so I became a teacher. I taught hearing people. And, you know, I was just so sick of going home with my own family and having to suffer through speaking and everything. And now my parents are gone. And I know that I need to teach more hearing people how to sign. Anyway. So I want to briefly mention about Martha's Vineyard. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. It's over in Massachusetts. It's an island on the East Coast. And it had communities of hearing and deaf people on that island in the 1700s, where everyone lived together and everyone learned American Sign Language. And they would have town halls and meetings. They go have church services. You'd go to the grocery store and everyone would know how to sign. You'd be able to chat with anyone and ask how they're doing and interact with anyone. And in schools, it wouldn't matter who was deaf or hearing, everyone knew sign language. And that was in the 1700s. And I'm just blown away by that. I love that idea. And I want the same idea to apply to today, eventually. I want to help the deaf community and the hearing community come together and provide that service. I don't want to prevent hearing people from being involved. We need to educate people in stopping them oppressing us. We have to learn how to educate others. And I want what happened in the 1700s to apply today. And I'm sure many of the deaf people that may be watching this may feel the same way. And you know, deaf people and hearing people have different cultures, different languages, different practices in the way we use language. Hearing people aren't very familiar with body language. Deaf people are very in tune with their body language. Hearing people are somewhat expressive on the face. Deaf people are much more so. You see every expression, every emotion impact on the way they communicate. It's all there on the face. Hearing people don't really know about American Sign Language as a language. They think that, you know, they're just writing and everything. And deaf people, on the other hand, we have American Sign Language, and we know American Sign Language has a grammar. And we think in 3D, and it's a very, very visual spatial language. Hearing people show this through their intonation. It goes up and down, and you see the same thing kind of parallel with deaf people. They're much more expressive. They sign bigger or they sign smaller, and you see that parallel. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a man by the name of William Stokey. This is his name sign. He was around in the 1960s doing work, and he invented the first golden key, really, for our community. And that was by describing ASL linguistics. And so I'll share with you a little bit about what he found and what he talks about, and how we, as deaf people growing up, we kind of have this intuition and we communicate with each other naturally, but we didn't know previously that there was a grammar and a deeper structure to the language. So that's what William Stokoe contributed. Hold on one second. So Stokoe, like I said, established what we refer to as the ASL parameters, or the parameters of American Sign Language. And those are, first, there's hand shape. For example, if I sign me with my one finger like this to my chest, and if I change that, so that's me, I just use that one hand shape. And if I change it to an open palm and tap my chest in the same place, it's my. So it's me and my. That's an example of the difference in hand shape there. So again, me and my. Another parameter is palm orientation. And as an example, so just whether the palm is up or down. And as an example, we have the sign for table like this. And if you flip your hand that way, I mean, it looks wrong. It's not a word. You have to have it flat down to make it the word table. So location is the third parameter. And that's, let me get. So if I sign C, as in I see you, and if I move it to the middle and sign C, most deaf people, if they're in conversation, will use it from the middle, but it's just a difference in location. For movement, this is a sign for enjoy. The hands are moving in circles on the chest, and then if you move them up, you sign happy. The word for happy. The fifth parameter are called non-manual signals. So if I sign not yet, it's what I'm doing with my face. If I sign late, my mouth changed. Have you finished your work? Not yet. And so did you notice that little subtle change there? Stokoe found these parameters. And so we also have differences in present tense versus past tense grammatically. So first one, you would say, I'm learning ASL. And then if you change it to past tense, I learned ASL, and you would add that sign for finish to give you the past tense. I have a motorcycle. Past tense, I had a motorcycle. Again, using that finish sign. At another example, at 9, I'm going to school. Past tense, I would say, at 9, I finish, go to school. Always using that finish word to establish past tense. So current present tense, I live in California. Past tense, before I lived in California. And so that's what Stokoe identified and saw what was being used. And then we have differences in how you produce nouns and verbs. Nouns, chair, for example, and then the verb for sit is just one movement. So again, a noun, you have this double movement with airplane. Verb, if you just move it in one motion, it means to fly. And if the noun scissors and the verb to cut is to just add a single motion. So for the noun, we have telephone, that double tap on the side of the face, and verb, you move it toward me to call me, and I move it toward you to call you. As a noun, we have car, and then the verb to drive. See that movement, moving it forward. And we also have rules with our numbers. Like for example, if we're talking about age, we come at the chin and we say 1, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, to 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. But when you go to 9, you tap it with the finger and then go to 10. Once you hit 10, there's no real rule on how you have to say age. And then you have rules with time. The o'clock rules: 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Always tapping the wrist here. Do we have a rule for 10? No, of course not. It's just 1 through 9. We have that. We just have those rules that seem to just cut off at the number 9. And how we know that is from Stokoe studies. We also have the same similar rules for minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. You can't do. You can't have 10 on your finger. It's 10 and then you sign the word minute. Let me see. Oh, I'm almost in. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. All right. We have signs for hour, 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours. Should we have 10 hours based on what we've seen? No. We have 10 and then hours. Weeks. You can do this incorporation with 2 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Can you do that with 10 weeks? No. The rule applies to only having handshakes 1 through 9. You have to do a separate word, 10 and then week, if you want to say 10 weeks. For months, you can say 2 months. You could say 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. But do you think we can do 10 months? No, not like that. No. Weeks, oh wait, no, I mean neither. So now for money with dollars and cents, you can do $1 with this turn of the wrist, $5, $8, $9, and $10, do you think? No. You have to separate them again. 10 and then dollars, 15 and then dollar, 20 and then dollar. So we have WH, that is to say WH questions, like what or where, when, who, why, let's see, how. Those are all WH questions. So we would say your name, what? You live where? Who are you? And then we also have question markers. For WH questions, your eyebrows tend to go down and express it that way. And we have a question mark for a yes or no, and that's with the eyebrows up. You can add this little question mark hand shape or point, but the eyebrows are up. And then do you enjoy work with the eyebrows up? And then someone will answer, yes, I do enjoy working. And then I would say with my eyebrows up, do you see that woman over there? And then the person might respond, no, I don't see that woman. But these are examples with the eyebrows. Are you a hearing person? The answer was like, and an answer could be, no, I am deaf. Always with the eyebrows moving. And that brings us to kind of topic comment structures, topic and comment. Deaf people typically use this all the time. If you would say party with the eyebrows up, signifying the topic, you would come in and say, it's Saturday, meaning that the party is happening on Saturday. Or if you want to do a movie, you would say movie Wednesday night. And you could do that as a question, having your eyebrows up the whole way. Movie Wednesday night, and then someone could say yes. And then if we go to if we do a basketball game, as an example of a topic comment, we would say basketball game, and then comment say won, as in we won that basketball game. It's that topic comment structure that is frequently used by deaf people. I know that it's a lot, but it's really important that we all learn this and that you've learned this. We also have what are called classifiers. And it's really interesting. They're called CL, for short when we sign in ASL. So if we use CLB, for example, the B handshake, this is the word for walk or room. These are all with the classifier handshake of B to depict the walking of the feet and the walls of the room. Okay, room. We also have it for door, for boat. These are all classifiers. And deaf people just know them and know how to use them. We also have a classifier 1 handshake. We would point and see the woman over there walked quickly over there. And that 1 handshake showed the person walking. That's what that 1 handshake is doing. Just means you walked fast across the space. You would say maybe the man over there kind of teetered his way over into the office, just kind of slowly walked and wandered, meandered. Or if a person was walking by and fell. And then we have a classifier for a 3, but like what could you possibly use for a 3 with a 3 handshake? You could say 3 people walked up to you. It's kind of cool. The 3 can also show a motorcycle going down the road on a bumpy road. And if there are 2 cars side by side racing each other, you can show that with both hands, both showing that that classifier 3 handshake. Classifiers are really interesting. They're really cool. And then we have CLV. And you say, I like going to the store to look around at what I'm doing. And that's what that V comes in. It's showing me move my eyes up and down, perusing the choices. Or I like to keep a close eye and watch for people who might steal my money. And it's all there in the facial expression too. And you have 2 sets of eyes. You're so diligent. And that man over there, he's just staring at me. And as soon as I look the other way, he looks away. And then I'm back to normal. I'm looking straight ahead again. I can feel him looking at me. It's those 2 kind of orientations of the way the eyes kind of move up and down. So we have a continuum of different sign language, expressions of sign language. Some hearing people created them, but some deaf people use them and like them, and that's fine. But ASL is short for American Sign Language. There's another one on this continuum called Pidgin Signed English, PSE. And then we have Signed Exact English, SEE or C sign. So I'll show you some examples of some ASL topic comment structure. Store, I go. I'm going to the store. PSE would say, I go to store. More in English structure. The third one, signed exact English, would say, I have a sign for each. I am going to the store. Showing each little piece of that with your hands. So I'm curious what you would think would be the best, ASL, PSE, or C sign. Let me know in the little chat. What do you think? I'm curious. But more and more now, we have codas and coda is short for a C as in child of deaf adults, coda. This usually refers to someone who is hearing, who learned ASL from their deaf parent or parent. We also have soda, which is a sibling, brother and sister of a deaf adult. So if you have a brother who is deaf, a sister who is deaf, learning sign language from them, possibly becoming an interpreter. We have CODA and SOTA interpreters. So today, more and more and more, we have deaf interpreters. We're starting to gain some ground in that, and that's great. Deaf people can succeed in this way, and I am thrilled. You can be an interpreter if you want to help deaf people and interpret for hearing people. Like, you can do that. You can show what being deaf means. If you as a deaf person go to an appointment and you're not understanding what the hearing interpreter is saying, you can call and request for a deaf interpreter to come and clarify that and help mediate the conversation better. And then there's also what we call Turtle Island hand talk. I encourage you more and more to start spreading that. We need native interpreters. We need Indian interpreters now more than ever. We are open, we need them. There are plenty of natives who want to become interpreters, but RID won't support it because you have to follow the white way, and they face these barriers often. And there's a woman, Melanie McCody, who has been working to encourage Indian interpreters' involvement as well as deaf Indian interpreters. And it's thrilling. It's so exciting to see that. Trying to push out RID's strict rules and guidance of recognizing the rights of people who grew up on reservations, who want to help deaf Indian serve and serve them better. Because there's that camaraderie, that similar identity that's different from the white world that RID helps run and perpetuate and critique. We need to educate and help them learn and understand. So keep that in mind. We are working to set up a Native American interpreter curriculum now. Plus, tenants for those interpreters who work on reservations, inland, and learn how, you see me kind of switching into PSE if you notice. ASL and English, well, let me tell you. ASL is nothing new. It has been around for ages. There have always been deaf people who communicated with each other. But just about 100 years ago, deaf people have started to fight back for their rights to language, for their rights to express themselves, to protect their language. And I have experienced a lot, and there's been a lot of experience of hearing people oppressing and discriminating against deaf people. And there's been enough. We need them to understand. And now we have to teach hearing people how to learn about deaf people's language, American Sign Language. Right now, hearing people have no idea. But so they have these excuses of ignorance, and it's our time to teach them and build better community services for the future here in the USA. We need to help them learn ASL. The same way people learn ASL, learn French, learn Spanish, and other languages. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, this is America. The people are here who use these languages. So my goal is that I believe we can be better. And so now I want to practice a little bit with some expressions. So I want you to practice with your eyebrow movement. Your name, what? My name, and then you spell your name. You say, nice to meet you. See you later. Take care. Bye-bye. Come on, practice. You want to learn and want to practice? So your name, what? With your eyebrows. I want to see the eyebrows showing the WH question. Nice to meet you. see you later. Deaf people typically send them this much faster, and it kind of comes off as see you later, see you later. It's very quick, that movement, that change. Take care. Bye-bye. So I've been teaching for 30 years. I've been teaching ASL for 30 years. And I know how to voice for myself, but I don't want to. I don't like to. I love it. I love ASL. And I want hearing people to learn how to communicate and sign and socialize with deaf people for the future. So, I mean, if you want to, my voice kind of sounds like a cartoon, like a cartoon character, the way it modulates up and down, and I'm not going to do that. It's kind of like Tweety Bird, I guess, just kind of singing and la la la. And I don't know if you remember going to Gallaudet College. I don't know. Before it was a university, it was still called Gallaudet College in Washington, D.C. My friends would say, "You sound like Tweety Bird," and I had no idea. I had no idea what I sounded like. You know, I just look at the mouth, but you know, hearing people, they have this stereo system where they're actually understanding. I'm just looking at the mouth, and I was just like, really? I sound like Tweety? And, you know, I can, kind of like Sylvester trying to, it just made me think of Sylvester trying to get Tweety. But I want communication between the deaf world and deaf culture with the hearing world. I want it to be like people were in the past, in the 1700s in Martha's Vineyard. I want that success. So I teach at I taught at Santa Fe Community College, SFCC, for 25 years. I taught at the deaf school as a staff. I was learning sign. I teach staff who are learning sign at the deaf school. For a private Santa Fe prep for 2 years. And I love teaching. Those kids are so motivated to learn, and I see them excel so well. And they love the classifiers and their facial expressions, and they really go at it with, racing cars and the way they make them turn, and they really show it. And they just take off with it. And I just see more and more kids learning or seeing them learn the language. And I used to work teaching waiters how to sign at different restaurants. And so many times the waiters would learn how to say, do you want red or green chili? And this is the New Mexico sign for chili. And so deaf people would respond, I want green chili. I want Christmas chili. And so just having, teaching these people who are going into restaurants and working, and that's community. That's the service we need to help bridge the communities together. Now, I am a private tutor through Zoom. I mean, the way I'm interacting with you all now, I'm a private tutor as well, and I really enjoy that. It keeps me busy. And sometimes I can communicate just fine through Facebook with people, through both Facebook and Zoom as a tutor. I can use Google Duo or FaceTime. And there are many different opportunities that hearing people can take advantage of and to interact with me or with other deaf tutors. So if there's any questions, let me know in the chat here. Thank you so much for watching me. And I can give you my email address. It's tvdef, DEAF, 77 @gmail.com. My texting number, if you feel like texting, is 505-795-6804. I'll see you later. You take care. Bye-bye. And Elena is saying, thank you, Terry. It was wonderful having you. Thank you. And thank you for teaching all those signs. We love you.
Hey, thank you so much, Terry. And if you need ASL interpreting services, we have 2 incredible interpreters down below, or now we've got Kat. So if you want to pin your video screen on that. In the meantime, I'm going to encourage everyone to come in. While you're coming in, we're going to come back and speak to Terry, but I'll go through a commercial break at the same time. What's going to happen is Tash is going to go through and invite you in if your camera is jammed. So if you on the side, you'll see Kat on the screen. But just wanted to share about Indigenous virtual events. We have one Zoom link, which is this number that you're in now. We have had the wonderful wisdom shared by this incredible Terry Vinson, teaching a little bit about deaf history, the native native deaf, and a little bit of teaching with sign language, which was very, very powerful. So, and then on Fridays, we have the concert series. This Friday, we've got the beautiful Chris Matthews, who will be blessing us. 6 o'clock, same address. As Tash said earlier, all our events have ASL interpreters. So exclusivity for all. And then believe it or not, next week, it's the beginning of June. Who would have thought? Which means we've got a whole new awesome amount of artists. And so gracing us and coming back to the Wisdom Circle, because he's a motivational speaker. We had him in the first with the concert series. Anyway, he'll be back next Wednesday, Ernie Sosi, and we'll be sharing some wonderful wisdoms on Wednesday next week. And if you go to our website, IndigenousWays.org, virtual events, you're going to see our brand spanking new events for June. We have this incredible smorgasbord, presenters for Wednesday Wisdom Circle, and also musicians and artists who will be here for Friday. So go to the website, download that, book in when you want to be here, because we want to see you back here. As you all know, our electronics are here, and if you are beaming in on social media and you want to get in, go to the website, get the Zoom address, and come in so you can share a little bit with Terry. Also, please, if you haven't already, liked our Facebook, like all our pages, our YouTube, etc., etc. If you don't receive our newsletter, be sure to sign up, and that's at the bottom of our page. We've also got a donate button. All our events, there's no cost. One of the reasons why we're here is because we organize and produce events. And because of our pandemic, our global pandemic, we went straight online. So if you haven't seen any of the videos and you're new, go into the virtual ways. There's like 18 videos. So we do twice a week, Wednesday, Friday. All of these are recorded, access for everyone, amazing presentations on Wednesday, and then incredible stuff going on Fridays. Our theme throughout all of this is rising and resilience, because the only way that we can get through this pandemic is together. And so, like Terry shared at the beginning of her story of growing up deaf, how oppressive that was with us, the hearing, but look at what she has done, her rising, her resilience. And that's how we get through this together. That's why we've created the Indigenous Ways virtual events. So if you are able to donate, we've got a PayPal, Venmo. You can also go to our Indigenous Ways donate. And then we've had a lot of people that don't like the electronics, and so they've sent us checks through the mail, which we're really grateful of. That helps us with our interpreters and also our presenters who come through Friday and Wednesdays. A lot of you know, or if you don't, we just came back from the Navajo Nation, Black Mountain, doing a relief run. That community there, Tasha's grandmother was born up there, so was her mother. Tasha and her beautiful sister, who's on, Michelle Redmond, they grew up as little kids with their grandmother in Black Mountain. And we found out that there was no supplies or food going up to them. So 2 Wednesdays ago, we announced that, and then we took off a week later. These are the pictures from that journey. And we took off a week later with over $3,000 that you had donated to feed the 40 families up on the mountain. One of the things that you haven't seen that I want to share with you is this.
Good morning, Chair. I'm calling from Black Mesa community. I'm one of the community members. And we have received food donations that you donated from your sister and you and the friends that you have, people that you know that are donated some food to us. We are very thankful and we are just so amazed. It was really a blessing. Thank you so much. In return, the mighty Lord, the Almighty Lord will bless you with a lot of good things in health and material. Thank you so much. This is Mrs. Jane Ballou calling from Black Mesa. Your mother was Manali. I know her. Thank you.
So thank you for that. I just wanted to share the deep gratitude of the families of receiving that food, simply because they've been missed out by a lot of charities and organizations that have been doing the run. This community, Black Mountain, feeds 3 areas: Black Mesa with the chapter house where you saw the pictures and video of, Kitsili, and also Oak Ridge. That's where the 40 families all reside around that area. Totally remote, no running water, no electricity. And so they've been missed out. So Tash asked, do you want us to come back? Because we planned to come back before winter. And they said, absolutely. So we're going to be doing another run, actually 2, the end of June and the beginning of August. So if you would like to donate, on our website, there's a beautiful banner up the top. Thank you to Bridget DePay out there in Atlanta from RTM team, that donation up there will go straight to them. So far, in the few days that we've done this, we've almost got $1,000. So this is where the food is going to. There was also an ask, and for those people living in the New Mexico area, specific things that they wanted, which is just below that you can see here. But we wanted to share that because we'll be going back. Obviously at the moment, because we've been up there, it's the 2nd highest COVID place in the state. So we have been quarantining for another week that we'll be here because we've been up there. But in saying that, this would not have been possible without any of your support. So to say thank you is just a small amount of words of our deep gratitude for everyone. But now I've spoken and now you're all back, you know, let's all just give it up for the amazing Terry Vincent and her beautiful, powerful presentation of what she had to share with us today. Thank you,
Terry.
thank you, thank
Yay.
you.
Okay, everybody, unmute and
Hi,
come on in.
Abby and Dave.
I see Najoni,
Thank you.
Terry's former student.
Terry.
Wow, and yes, in Hawaii.
Hey, Sarah, what's up, Sarah?
Yes, so many people. Hi, I love you. Anita, I love you. Yes, can you see me?
Yes.
Alita, can you see me? Hi. And then Harry and so she's using different name signs I'm not familiar with. And there's Steph. Oh, look. There's Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
Big hugs.
I want to do a plug for Sarah. Sarah's going to be presenting next
month. Oh, this is so great. Thank you. Oh,
presenter
that's
with
wonderful. Oh, yay. Oh, I can't wait to see you next month with your presentation. So excited. Yay. 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 So so you got my experience and now I get to get yours. And Sarah's saying, yes, I'm really looking forward to that night. And Terry said, thank you. It's good to see you. And Sarah said, yes, it's good to see you. And Terry said, oh, you're looking good. You're looking very good. Yay.
This is Tosh.
It
Does
seems
it-
like there's so many deaf people here. It seems like there's all deaf. This is great. This is
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and
Loretta,
Alina said hello. And thank you. And Christine is saying, oh yeah, this is great. And Terry's saying thank you.
Jerry, do you want to close us out with something, one of your powerful finishings? Thank you everyone so much. Jerry's just going to unmute herself. This is what we do every Wednesday. Thank you for connecting with us. We want you to stay safe. That was the reason for us doing these virtual events. And that whole social distancing is really important. I know we're in summer, but the only cure that's going to happen is when there's an antidote, and right now there's not. And so we've got to take precautions in what we do. And you know how we can do this? Together. We grow strong by being together. So we want to thank each and every one of you for beaming in this evening. Thank you for the things that you do to be safe, because we want to see you back here next Friday with Chris Matthews, or back at the Sacred Circle with a comedian, motivational speaker, Ernie Sosi. So Jerry.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah. Salut. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yat A. Geraldine Barney in Shia. Hello, everyone. My name is Geraldine Barney. Yat A. Hope life is well with you. And Ahiha TV for your information and education and your thoughts of moving forward to be inclusive with expression, inclusive with what is coming from the heart that comes out facially, emotionally, and I can really see the difference that occurs, and the language that is through the muscles of the face and the gestures and the posturing. I am a dear friend, or my dear friend Tosh. I never really came across until I had met her signing, and it seems like, well, to me it seems like it's more than what I can offer audibly, visually, and hearing. It seems like there is a lot more there, and something I am missing. And I would like to learn and to know more as well. So yeah, yes, that is as well. Thank you. Yat A, Great Spirit, Creator, bless us all today to come together and to understand that there is a visual language that is needed and needs to grow, just like the different languages of the Colitz people, the tribe, the different tribes, the different Pueblo tribes, the Navajo, the Zuni Pueblo, Laguna, Wampanoag, and to be cross-cultural and to learn. There's a whole lot more to learn, and I'm very grateful. Yeah, thank you for today. Thank you for everyone who is here together inclusively. Bless your hearts, bless your minds. Take care of yourself. Yeah, Hojona Hasklin, Hojona Hasklin, Hojona Hasklin, Hojona Hasklin.
Ooh,
For everybody,
thank you.
that is the essence of the Navajo prayer, is the beauty way it is. We say it 4 times. Hojona Hasklin, we say it 4 times. And it means the beauty way it is, so it is. So thank you, Jerry Barney. We love you, Terry Vinson, and everybody that's on tonight. We love, love, love you. We so appreciate our ASL interpreters. And Missy, you are a rock star. That's my sister, you guys.
Touch the earth, touch the earth, touch the earth.